All right, I'd like to call the Village of Cottage Grove Plan Commission to order on Wednesday, May 10th. It's 6:30 p.m. We are holding this meeting as a hybrid meeting, meaning that we are in the Village Hall as well as on Zoom. The Zoom link is top of the agenda. There's also audio call-in number as well at the top of the agenda. With that, we do have a quorum. The agenda was properly posted, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, then, we have public appearances. This is the public's opportunity to speak on a non-agenda item. We do have a couple public hearings, so if you wish to speak at that point, then we'll open up at that point in the agenda. But if anybody has anything else, please speak either on the Zoom or in the room. All right, then we'll move to discuss and consider the meeting minutes from our Plan Commission meeting held on April 12th. Any questions, comments, or edits regarding the Plan Commission meeting as presented?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Fourth. Motion by Heidi, seconded by Don, third by Fred, fourth by Troy. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor then?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. All right, next then, I'd like to open a public hearing. This is the public's opportunity to provide input on a proposed amendment to 325-38- or parentheses D, parentheses 6 of our zoning ordinance to modify intensity of bulk requirements for HR 9 historical residential district. Aaron, you'll explain that.
Do my best. So we started talking about this last time when Mr. Miller was here presenting his the concept for his duplex proposal, which is in the HR 9 district. It kind of became apparent that some of the percentages for lot coverage and landscape surface ratio wouldn't work for anything larger than a single family, even though some of those uses were allowed as conditional uses. So this just gives a little more flexibility when something other than a single family is built to tweak those percentages a little bit. What we did to kind of compensate, for example, for the landscape surface ratio, there'd be a lower percentage of green space required, but we would require screening, either a privacy fence or a solid row of shrubs or trees or something that would completely block that paved area in the backyard. And then the building coverage, also kind of hard to meet if you're going to have two garages on a building like that in these smaller, older lots. So this would give a little more flexibility in that too. So while this came about because of Mr. Miller's project, it's probably stuff that's going to be applicable to other lots of that type. So.
Since this is a public hearing portion, open it up to anybody in the public. If you wish to speak, certainly share your name, your address, your municipality, and hold your comments to no more than 3 minutes. So again, anybody in the room or on Zoom which wish to speak on this particular item, please raise your hand or raise your hand virtually. Amy, online?
Yeah, this is Amy and Charles Smith at 264 North Main Street, directly across the proposed building site. We've been through this situation with that same building site in the past few years. We feel that looking at the plans that a duplex there is entirely too big for this neighborhood. We think this neighborhood should stay single-family residences and not have something that covers an entire lot and encroaches upon other people's areas, almost with their viewpoints. It doesn't look like it's appropriate for this part of Main Street, and it just would be better, I think, if we could keep it to single-family residences here.
Yeah, our issue is with the lack of, it pretty much covers the entire lot with pavement, with the house, with the garages in the back, leaving very, very little space between the house next door to it, and then adding that you're stipulating putting in a fence or a hedge along that side. You really are leaving no space for any natural green space, any, like all the runoff and everything from completely covering that entire lot. It doesn't work in this neighborhood. We would really, really prefer to have single resident home on that lot if they're going to develop that lot. Would much prefer that. Anything else to add?
Yeah, no, that's just, again, with something large, it eliminates a lot of the greenery and the green space here.
All right. Thanks, Charles and Amy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public who would like to speak? All right. With that, then, we'll close this portion of the public hearing and move on to item 7, which is discuss and consider the proposed amendment 325-38, parentheses D, parentheses 6, of zoning ordinance to modify intensified bulk requirements in the HR 9 historical district. So with that, commission members, any questions, comments?
Aaron, where you proposing the screening be? The side lot or back lot?
Mr. Miller provided a updated drawing I can show him. So, well, and the paving in the back.
We're talking about the ordinance first, so.
Right,
Okay.
right. But I mean, just in general,
Yep,
where
gotcha.
would the screening be required?
Yep, understood.
I see, okay.
So just to tag on to that, is that how this ordinance would be applied to this specific application? Or since we're talking about the ordinance in general and then this specific proposal next, I just want to make sure it can be a little confusing when we have so many public hearings.
But, yeah, so right now we're considering the ordinance and not this specific plan, but this plan would be an example of something that would, the ordinance.
So this ordinance allows us then to require that screening or fence in that area that you're showing on this example. Okay. Thanks, Erin. I guess just another, this is the historical district we have. Is this stretch or is this in another area of the village also?
And there's not a lot of these parcels. They tend to be in this Main Street area.
Other questions from commission members?
Just one other point of clarification. If someone else wants to speak on the specific proposal tonight, they'll have the opportunity next. I just wanted to put that out there. Okay, thank you.
So based on the map, that's a joint driveway to each residence, is that correct?
Yeah, Troy, that's probably, this again, we're talking about the ordinance specific to this item. We'll get to the specific Miller property next in subsequent agenda items.
I would make a motion then, unless anyone else has any questions for the ordinance, to recommend approval of the proposed amendment to 32538D6 of the zoning ordinance to modify intensity bulk requirements of the HR 9 Historical Residential District as presented.
Second.
Motion and second by Heidi and then Troy. Any further discussion?
So they still would have to bring in any sort of plans for approval?
Would still be a conditional use. That's
Okay.
not changing.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Having heard none, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Carries. Next then, we'll open up for a public hearing. This is public's opportunity to provide an application from Chris Miller for the approval of conditional use permit to allow construction of a duplex on lot number 2 of CSM 13327, located between 255 and 269 North Main Street. We do have at least one person filled out a form to speak. Colleen, are you in the room? Yes. Please feel free to come up to the mic. Make sure that the little lever thing is pulled towards you, towards the head of the microphone, so it's on. There's a little switch at top, just so that the folks in the Zoom can hear.
Okay. My name's Colleen Spurley. My husband Parker and I are here. We live at 255 North Main Street. This, I believe, is the first time that we've been to a meeting, and we would have been to others. I'm not sure that if we were notified, there must have been some extenuating circumstance for us to not be here, because this is of great concern to us for obvious reasons. I'm not sure how this whole process works, but we're here definitely tonight to kind of get caught up on what's going on. I mean, the last I had heard of this was a few years ago when the land, what I believe the strip of land that's being considered was up for sale, and we were not in any position to buy this land. And I guess we were under the impression that it was done and over with. Since no one bought it, they weren't going to. Obviously, that's not the case, but we've lived there for 30 years, and the house is roughly 130 years old from what I have been able to find out. I guess we're just really concerned with anything going in there, because our house sits so far to the north of our property. Anything that's built there is going to be right out our window. And I guess after 30 years, we just would rather that it stay open, of course. I'm not even sure when this was rezoned. I was told by someone that it had been rezoned back in 2012. I don't even know if that's accurate, or I don't understand how this whole process works. And if it was rezoned back that far, were we notified? Did we even have any say in that? Or is that completely up to the village board? I don't understand how any of this works. So we're basically here now to try and catch up and, see what's what. I would just really like everything to be taken into consideration, that, I've lived on Main Street for 53 years, and it's growing, and I just don't see the need for anything to be put there, especially rental property. That would really infringe on the way that we live there. To put a brand-new house or duplex, anything, in the middle of two houses that are 100-plus years old just seems completely absurd to me. So, thank you.
Colleen? Anybody else from the public wish to speak? Either on Zoom or in the room?
Otherwise, I don't know if you want to let Chris talk more about the project. Chris Miller.
Oh, I suppose, yeah. Hey, Chris, come on up. Again, just make sure the mic's still on.
Yep. I just had a couple comments in response to Colleen's comments. Was this for sale to the public? I don't, it's a private lot that was never put out for sale. I just want to make that forsaken. It's actually been in your family for a long, long time. Secondly, I just want to point out that regardless of it, that a structure that would obviously go on that property, and you know this, would meet the setbacks anyway. So I just wanted to make a comment to that regardless of what, you know, the zoning is and what kind of building goes on there, the setbacks are setbacks. That 8-foot setback is not unusual throughout the village. So regardless of that, the setbacks, the sides, they're 8 feet. They're 8 feet all over the village. So what happens on the left, the right, and the front, I don't think there's really anything that's going to change that. So I just wanted to make that comment. I didn't think it was ever put out for sale, so there wouldn't have been any notice. It's been in the family for a long, long time. So I'm not sure what that was. I just wanted to clarify that was never for sale. And I'll come back up on a different note when we talk, if you have any other questions about the building.
As long as it's there,
Okay.
right? Yep. As long as you're there, you might as well
Okay.
walk through it. I'll check to see if anybody else we close the public. Rick, should we close the public then?
Yeah, if there's nobody else. If we don't have any other speakers, we can close the public hearing and just allow him to present the application.
Yeah. All right, so one more time, if anybody from the public wishes to speak on this particular item. Oh, yes? Okay. Chris, can you?
Yeah, you bet.
I'm Parker Spurley. My wife was just up here a minute ago talking, and I don't really understand how this all works either. Regarding the public notification of the sale, no, you're right, there wasn't a public notification of sale. I talked to him personally when he was putting it up for sale and asked him how much it was. So that's the clarification there. Regarding putting this duplex rental property between our house and theirs, you know, you're saying 8-foot offset or setback or whatever. Does that mean 8 foot back from the lot line? That's my question. Can somebody answer that?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So I have, I believe, 6 feet from, there's like a drainage ditch on each corner of my lot, and I have 6 feet past that. So then that's my lot line. So another 8 feet off of that, and there's the house. Is that right? Am I understanding this right?
That's the closest the house could be.
Okay. And you guys are suggesting, if I'm understanding this right, that they put some sort of fence or natural divider between that, between the houses?
We were calling for it in the back around the driveway and garage area, not necessarily all the way through.
Okay. I had a lot of questions here, and I don't know if this is the place to ask those questions. This is the first time I've been here in a really long time, so I don't quite understand how this all works. So if I have questions, is this when I ask those questions?
Sure.
Okay. Looking at the plan there, it does look pretty densely packed, given the square footage of what's there. And I'm in total agreement with my wife and the people across the street that I don't believe there should be a structure going in there. These lots are unusual in that the houses are offset to one side instead of parked right in the middle. You know, I don't know why they did that, but it's kind of nice to have a big yard on one side and a big yard on the other side. And, you know, you look at any of the subdivisions going in today and the houses are parked right on top of each other. That was one of the appeals to us when we moved down here, is that, you know, and everybody commented at how far apart the houses were. Now you want to shoehorn another building in between us and the building to the north. I'm kind of curious as to what the rental property is going to do to the value of the homes in that area. Do you guys have any, I don't know if you have any insight to that or not. But that was a concern that I had is, you know, what you've got single family and then rental right in the middle. How does that affect the surrounding properties?
Generally, when it's newer construction next to older buildings, it's, if anything, the newer construction is going to have the higher value. And we can't really legally say you can't have rentals, but you could have something that's owned, and these things can go back and forth anyway. I mean, that happens. We have these zero lot line splits where duplexes get either purchased or...
I guess I'll leave you with this, is that I'm not in favor of this at all. When I found out that the property was being sold off and potentially developed at some point, I wasn't happy with it then, and I'm not happy with it now. So I would encourage you to not let this go through. I don't know if it's already a done deal or not, but if I have any shred of hope to not have it happen, then I'm putting my 2 cents in worth for that. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Redford. Anyone else from the public wish to speak?
I think Amy Smith has her hand up for her, I believe.
Yes. Hi, just one more time, if that's okay. We just wanted to reiterate our feeling about duplex versus a single-family home on that space. Like, we're not opposed to them developing that lot, but a single-family home is really what fits in with this neighborhood, fits in on that lot. I really think putting a duplex there is just overbearing and not really what we're looking for this neighborhood. And I think that's something you all can understand, you know, living in wherever homes you have, that you would prefer single-family homes probably near you or across, you know, and with something that fits in with the rest of the homes in this neighborhood. We're very much wishing to have a single-family home there.
All right, thank you, Amy.
All right, thank you.
With that then, we'll close the public hearing portion of this and move on to discuss and consider the application for Chris Miller for the approval of conditional use permit to allow construction of a duplex on lot number 2 of CSM 13325 between 255 and 267 North Main Street. So Chris, you want to come up, present your application?
What was that? Yeah, hi, my name is Chris Miller. I'm the one making the application for the 2-unit on Main Street. I've provided plans and ideas of what we want to do under the conditional use of that zoning. So you guys see the plans, what I'd like to do. I'm open to comments. And any questions. Part of the idea of the way the plan is set up is I do want to make a comment that they're up and down Main Street, both sides. There's multi-zoning, there's different zonings, they're the same zoning. I've done buildings down the street that, under the same circumstances. So they're, even across the road, up and down, there are a couple properties that are multis also with the same zoning. So it's not completely isolated as a 2-unit, you know, it might not be right next door. the house next door is currently a rental, that the current owner has. So rental, non-rental, like I said, there's kind of a mix and match up and down Main Street of what that is on both sides, up, down. Secondly, part of the reason for the setup the way it is, the garage it is, and the way I want to do it the way it is because, and I've shown this in the past on other buildings I've done, I have it set up that, there won't be any parking in the street. There won't be a need for it. There won't be parking in the yards like some places are. There won't be, everything will be contained, everything will be back. And by doing this conditional use permit, correct me if I'm wrong, but everyone has a say of what gets done there and what it looks like and how it fits into the scheme on Main Street. By right, if I believe, I could put a single-family house on, it could look like whatever it wants to look like. I don't know if there's, I guess I'm asking that question. So if I were to put a single-family home on that, the front, the left, the right, those side setbacks, those aren't gonna change. Nothing's gonna look any different. And that's by right, that, unless I'm, mistaken. So I just wanted to point that out. The sides, I mean, that's normal across the village. And I'm willing to do whatever to make everybody think it looks nice and want it to look nice and everybody want to see it. I think I've shown in the past that I can put up a building that's gonna make Main Street, enhance Main Street from what it is now, and it's not gonna clutter it up. It'll probably, I think it'll definitely improve the value and improve the look of Main Street. So, that's again where I'm going, and that's where I have the plans set.
Anything else to add, Aaron?
Yeah, I guess just to clarify, normally a single family or a duplex wouldn't come here for a site plan review. It's here because it's a conditional use in this particular district.
Questions from commission members?
I have just a process question, just to have the discussion about, how this came to be presented, just to help clarify for, all of us and people's questions. So in our comprehensive plan, this is allowed. In our zoning code, this is allowed. And then someone sees an opportunity to fulfill what we see as a vision in an empty lot, then they can propose a project that fits the requirements. Is that kind of a good
Yeah.
summary? Or
And
do you have anything to add on to that, or?
And in this case, it is a conditional use, so it's, has this higher level of scrutiny and review when it comes here.
Way back when, we had several people come in with projects, kind of more in the downtown, the older part of the village, and this kind of includes part of that, but all the lots were like 66-foot lots. So a lot of them were, they didn't really fall into our normal single-family lot zoning minimum size, or they were, they were smaller than that. And in order to let people do additions or improvements or whatever on their houses without having to go get variances, we looked and saw that we had to change and up, we weren't gonna change the lot size for a new single family, but we recognized that we had all these old existing lots that we needed to accommodate. So that's why we made a new zoning for it. And there would have been a public hearing for that. But, so yeah, we had several projects come in and we just said, hey, we need to just look at the whole area here with these smaller old lots. And I used to have a 2-flat on Main Street as well. And I know there's one almost kitty corner across the street, the brown one that's a 2-flat, because I looked to buy it at one time. And I like the idea because there was a house put in on an infill lot that doesn't really match the architecture of everything else. So Chris did on the Whitty lot, he put a 2-unit in, and it blends in with the neighborhood architecturally, which was better than I can say for that house that was put up closer, and it just was kind of a prefab house. And hopefully it holds out in place. And like I said, we could probably come in and do that. We could roll it up.
If I could just give one quick comment on the conditional use process. So we actually don't get a lot of conditional use permits in the village. So back in 2017, there was a state law change, so it's known across the state as Act 67. So it changed statutorily, like the conditional use process. So basically, the way that it works under state law is you've got your standards and ordinance, and if the applicant either satisfies those standards with the evidence that they present, or they agree to satisfy any village standards, then at that point, the village, by state law, has to approve the conditional use permit. So there's a lot less discretion than there used to be prior to Act 67. So again, that's sort of a legislative, like a state preemption on that. You know, you can establish conditions to try to control the use, but if the applicant is satisfying the standards, then the state presumption is that the conditional use permit will be approved.
Thanks, Rick. And I appreciate the additional historical background also. We just recently completed the housing study, and the Housing Task Force published their findings. And one of the findings was about missing middle housing and attainable housing. And it is difficult to do that with single-family houses now. The cost of construction is so high. And you know, I think that twin home is, you know, a great opportunity for you know, grandparent moving closer to be closer to their grandchildren, or you know, there's so many options for, you know, this type of need for our housing stock, and right on Main Street, easily accessible to all of our amenities and transportation, and to be able to not continue to sprawl every development. I think infilling with this type of housing is a good opportunity to create some of those options. It's not out of line with some properties, as you mentioned, on the street as well.
I guess one comment is there aren't typically notifications of property to go up for sale in the village, or properties that are sold in the village. So no citizen next door to a property is being put up for sale or is sold is typically notified of that. With that being said, I would make a motion to approve the application from Chris Miller for a conditional use permit to allow construction of a duplex on Lot 2 of CSM 13327, located between 255 and 269 North Main Street.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second then. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor then? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Thank you. Next then, we move to discuss and consider application from Houston Properties for the approval of a precise implementation plan to construct a 27-unit senior apartment building at 103 East Reynolds Street.
We have Dennis Richardson and Dale Houston here in the building. Dennis is coming up to present.
I'm Dennis Richardson with RG Houston Company. I also have Dwight Houston here in the building with me to
I'm sorry, did I say
answer.
Dale?
Yeah,
You did say
so I
Dale.
just said it.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, never happened. So what we are proposing with our planned unit development, the retirement community, Arrowwood, is we have a additional lot that sits between our existing Drumlin Towers 27-unit senior housing and the memory care facility. So it was always shown that there was going to be some type of building there. We're proposing to put in another 27-unit senior housing apartment, 3-story, on that lot there and complete that section of the property. So our proposal is to 27-unit, 3-story, very similar finishes to the existing building next door, and to match in that area. I guess the Houstons have always been known to put higher-end stuff on the buildings and with their finishes. So in this will be apartments. So we're just here if there's any questions on the proposal, or?
Questions? I guess you can go through, let Aaron go through his piece, and then that may address other questions too from the commission.
Yeah, so this is another step in an ongoing process that started back in the 90s when, the original general development plan was approved. As Dennis said, this does fit with that approved general development plan. Certainly agree that this whole neighborhood has really become a nice asset for the village, all the different variety and types of senior housing in one place, and it is great to have, and this project just adds to that. I didn't have too many conditions on my end, just we would like to see the final elevations of the building once they're
Certainly.
completed. And we did have a couple of comments from Chief Lang at the EMS department. He had some concerns about the existing 27 unit, getting structures into the elevator and things like that, so you may want to.
Yeah, we do know
Check
that
into
the existing building that was put in, we have been told already by the builder and the architect that the rules have changed. So there is some changes, that it's not going to be the exact same type of elevator. So we'll get that clarified by Nathi Bruce too on what the changes have been. But
Sure, and then Chief Lang also just wanted to check the turn radius for the emergency equipment, so we can add that as a condition. Just a simple enough thing for your engineers to
sure.
throw together. And I think Kyla is online here from Strand, and she had some stuff in her staff report as well.
Hi, yes, I did. It was a pretty straightforward review since it is another addition to the area, very similar to the other Drumlin Tower sites, as the applicant and Aaron has explained. Because this lot was included with the other regional area for this entire development, it is included in the regional stormwater facilities. They are including an infiltration basin on the north or the east end of their property to handle the infiltration needs. The only, pretty straightforward on the review and comments that we had, the only concerns that we had was how flow is kind of leaving the site because it kind of goes down a larger hill, and we didn't have any, there were no contours or existing grade points on that. So something very easily that your engineers will be able to show us to confirm everything's not going to pond as it's leaving the site.
Then we'll move it over to commission members then. Comments?
Since I got to talk about the housing study before, I'll bring it up again, and I think this is a valuable addition to the community and providing some much-needed housing for people as they age to move close to their families that decided to move to Cottage Grove, or as you downsize and want to stay in the community where you built your life. So I think these are a great addition to our community.
And I think one thing you and Dwight had mentioned when we met before, there's people in the assisted living who have a spouse that wants to live close to
Correct.
them, and this provides a good opportunity.
Helps provide, right.
And the memory care.
Other questions, comments from commission members?
I wanted to leave room for other commissioners to ask questions, but if it sounds like there aren't any, so I would make a motion to approve the application from Houston Properties, Inc. for approval of a precise implementation plan to construct a 27-unit senior apartment building at 103 East Reynolds Street with conditions in the memos.
All right. Thank you. Motion and second then. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor then?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, Dwight. Be a nice addition to the community. Next then, discuss and consider an application for Midwest Steel for the approval of site plan amendment to allow the construction of approximately 65,000 square foot expansion to an existing warehouse building located on 301 Commerce Parkway. Jody, want to come up?
See, I'm Joe Hickey, I'm our branch director for Midwest Steel, and just so you know, I run the branch. The building and the business is owned by Steel Incorporated out of Virginia Beach, Virginia. We supply about 1,300 dealers in 7 states, and with basically outdoor power equipment. Really, the operation of the building is. We receive product from Virginia Beach or Germany. We warehouse it, and then we ship it to our dealers. In addition to providing the warehousing, we provide sales support, service support, training. We have approximately about 55 people in my organization. About 30 of them are in the Cottage Grove facility. And basically, we're looking to double the size of our warehouse due to growing sales, and then also bringing on a few new product lines as well. Really, the basic operation isn't going to change at all. We're just going to, matter of fact, by expanding the building, it's going to make us a little bit more efficient. So I would say, really next year, I don't really see expanding the head count at all, but, maybe over the next 2 to 10 years, maybe we expand the head count here, maybe by 2 to 5 people, something like that. We have plenty of parking already. So really, I don't see a whole lot of change. It might be an extra truck or 2 a day just as we grow our business. But outside of that, the operation of the business will stay the same, so.
Glad to see you're succeeding here.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a nice partnership. We like being here, close to the freeway, and obviously it's been a good partnership.
Walk through.
Yep, don't have a whole lot to add. I think this addition has been talked about all the way back to when looking at site plans for the original building. It's just a matter of everything's kind of. A couple of conditions in my staff report. One just to note any rooftop equipment needs to be screened, although it sounds like from the ARC meeting there won't be any.
Yeah, our heating units are inside. They're Cambridge units, so we do not have any heating or air conditioning on top of the building.
So in the original site plan approval, there was a condition that when the addition is built, there would be a landscaping buffer on the south edge of the property, so we'll just look for that to get installed.
Yeah, I think we were just wondering what the details of that entailed, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Corresponded with Brett on that.
Oh, you did already? Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay. And then just a courtesy note to the airport that when it's this close, it's not in their airspace, it's not technically in the navigation easement that we have at the airport, but it's close enough that they should be aware that there's construction happening. And then this was approved by the ARC yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah. They did add a couple of minor conditions as well. One just clarifying that they want staff to review the final plan for the landscape buffer.
Yep.
They had asked about making sure the oranges match from the new building to the existing building, and it sounds like
we're gonna want that anyway. I don't want 2 different colors on the building, so.
And then the plans as submitted showed 4 loading docks, but it sounds like there's still some discussion on how many. It could be up to 8.
Correct.
The ARC was okay with allowing up to 8. I guess the only caveat I would put on that, there would be some more paving, so I don't know if that was accounted for in the stormwater as designed, so we just want to double check that that's addressed if it does get expanded. And then Kyla, gonna go over your staff report?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. very standard, we had pretty straightforward reviews this, plan commission, which was nice on our end. As with Commerce Park with all the other lots, everything has regional facilities, so we're good on water quality and discharge. There was coordination with the DNR, regarding infiltration of the site based on existing soil conditions, and the DNR has responded to that and they have considered it exempt. However, the applicant is still showing stone infiltration areas within the site. There is some existing retention basins just, south of the site that if disturbed need to be maintained and restored as original drawings included. Besides that, as with the docks, we kind of had that same question where the doors and docks were going to be located, so there should be a supplied on the final drawings.
Sure.
That's all on my end.
Anything else?
The only comment from Chief Lang on this one, again, same comment Kyle had, was just finalizing where the doors are located, because that's, how they get in and out of the building is important to know, but
Yeah.
that was a condition anyway.
Questions, comments from commission members?
Nope, pretty straightforward.
I have just a little bit of a nosy question, though. We don't have any sustainability requirements, but this is a lot of roof space. Have you ever considered adding solar?
It was discussed. I don't know beyond, bringing it up. I know it was discussed. I know certainly our parent company in Germany is very supportive of that initiative. Beyond initial discussion, at this point, no. So, yeah.
It'll be cool to see if it ever happens.
Yeah, no, that's a fair question, and I think it's also something that, maybe not in the original bill, but we could certainly put it in later.
Sure. Okay.
But yeah, no, it was brought up, and I just don't know where it went from there, so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate it. No,
Yeah.
I'm very happy that you're looking to expand, and I think a great member of our Commerce Park community, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'll make a motion to recommend approval for the application from Midwest Steel for approval of a site plan amendment to allow the construction of an approximately 65,000 square foot expansion to the existing warehouse building located at 301 Commerce Parkway with,
Second.
yeah, with conditions set forth by staff.
Second.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Fred.
Oh, I wasn't done yet.
Guess I would just add, and the ARC conditions.
Right, that'd be, yeah,
All the
everybody.
conditions. Thank you. A motion second then, any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Thanks, Joe.
All right, thank you. Yep.
Exciting. All right, then move to discuss the analysis of parking requirements among comparable communities. Aaron, you're on a roll.
So this is one of the tasks that came out of the Housing Task Force study that Heidi's referenced already a couple of times tonight. But basically, the short of this is that parking is expensive to build, and if you're building more than you need, you're just adding costs to the housing that gets passed on to the purchaser or renter eventually. So we just wanted to kind of check in with other communities in the area, see how we compare. There were also a couple of articles in the packet that kind of provided a little bit more background on this kind of issue. One trend that's starting to be more common, and some of our comparables here are doing this, but having both a minimum and a maximum, or in some cases, just a maximum amount of spaces. So Madison does that, Verona does that, and Madison further lowers the maximum in their transit-oriented districts. So if it's near bus lines or bus rapid transit or something, then that max is lowered. To be more or less in line with the comparables, I think if there's anything we were going to change, currently require 1.5 spaces per studio or efficiency unit. A lot of places it's 1, or in some cases 0. And then for a 3+ bedroom, we require 2.5 in most places. That tends to be 2. And then we differentiate on the size of the senior units. 3+ bedrooms require 2, smaller units require 1. There's kind of a mix of how places handle that. Some, it's just 1 space for any senior unit, and some don't differentiate with senior at all, but they do tend to have less drivers. I think the data backs that up. So basically just looking for some direction. If you want more information or you want me to draft something up, kind of related to this, I guess we could do a similar thing for commercial parking, not necessarily related to the housing tasks, but as long as we're doing this.
I do see on some of the older parts of the village where people are indeed parking on the grass, and, you know, or someone's always parking in the street. And so I don't know, I don't think our housing ones are completely out of line at all.
Other comments, questions?
Yeah, I think we are, similar to others. One thing that we've been talking about since I serve on CARPC is they're going to be starting a zoning code kind of review to produce a document similar to what the MPO did last year, kind of comparing exactly these things, so then planners across communities can see what others are doing and look for good ideas. And recently, one of them on the list presented, it might have been, I can't remember, but a community said, we're updating, I think it was McFarland, we're updating our comprehensive plan, but we haven't started reviewing these yet, so we might be a little bit ahead of what some other communities have been looking at. We might be the first one looking at that, is kind of what I've gathered talking with them, that this is on their radar, but it's maybe not something they've all updated yet.
I wouldn't be opposed to looking at reviewing that.
I think the biggest one I see is the studio efficiency, to have 1.5. That would be maybe the one that I'm most interested in. An efficiency small, you probably don't have more than 1 person living in it. So, 1 spot for that, that's one that I could see probably the most likely on this. And the other side is the environmental side, to have all the pavement in areas that heats everything up from the urban heat island effect, and you're worried about runoff. So
I didn't get that.
Oh.
Could you try again?
I guess maybe I should translate.
Hearing runoff.
My Apple Watch doesn't like that.
I'd go along with that, Heidi, on that one, but I think the rest of them are okay.
I concur as well with Heidi's comments, and I don't think we're that far off base from other folks and other communities, so.
Yeah, we don't have transit or any, another transportation option, which is, I mean, maybe some people can live close enough they can walk to work, but to get,
Not typical.
grocery, they probably still have a car.
So did I hear that the commission would consider adjusting the studio efficiency from 1.5 to 1?
Correct.
I don't know how big of a difference that makes, but.
I guess the other thing, and a lot of these larger projects have been approved as planned unit developments anyway, so some of this becomes a little bit flexible, and sometimes this is something that gets discussed. But I think most of the places have stayed pretty.
Have you heard from many developers that just from around here that are parking, or was that just because it was PUD, then it was discussed as part of that.
I think a lot of people just think municipalities require more than is necessary.
I think the Franks put in more than we required. You know, so, and that was all inside parking, you know.
Right.
for
Yeah,
the
that
most
is,
part.
yeah, I think that inside parking was very beneficial there at the Texas Wrap or whatever they
Yep,
called it.
Yep. So I think they looked at it and they've had experience with other buildings and they, I guess they had some real, you know, having built the same buildings in other communities, they saw the realities of what was needed.
Yeah, yeah, the winter, and then they could use the rooftop for common area.
Yeah, that's a good point. People aren't automatically going to build the minimum. They're going to build what they think they need to build to get their apartments rentals.
Aaron, you got enough direction?
So we do want to look at the commercial.
I have a question just to make sure I understand. What you're suggesting is to change the minimum.
Correct.
I concur.
Yeah, President Dark. All right, then we'll move on to discuss a more flexible mix of housing unit type percentages in planned neighborhood districts. All right, Aaron.
I mean, this may be something we talk about over a few meetings. This is just kind of introducing it, but just a refresher on the future land use map and the comp plan. We have a dozen or so specific planned neighborhoods defined. Each one kind of has their own description of what we want to see there. There's kind of a typical formula that's applied to most of those. So 65% of the units at least have to be single family. You can do up to 15% of units as duplexes and up to 20% as multifamily. And if they're kind of further off, it means maybe don't want as much. Some of the interest in the missing middle type housing options that the task force. I mean, one way we might want to tweak this is just getting rid of the differentiation between the duplexes and the multifamily and just say you can do up to 35% of the units as some type of multifamily. You could make it a little more specific and change the 15% for duplexes to that whole missing middle 2 to 8. Then the remaining 20% multifamily could be in, there could be a larger building. And I guess about this, you're allowed this percentage of multifamily units kind of by right on plan, or if they're providing some sort of extra amenity, like land, or if they do infrastructure. I think we're not requiring that, but there may be some benefit.
The idea was always to kind of taper it into a neighborhood. The theory was to have the, 4 units is what we maxed at initially. So the idea was, we've done it in several neighborhoods, where the 4 units, we start out with that. Because there's going to be some business use or whatever, so you're going to start with that. And then you're going to taper into 2-unit dwellings, and then from there, the single-family homes. So I'd still like to keep some, the tapering in, I still like that idea of gradually blending that in. I sometimes if we just give the right, I think, developers aren't always necessarily doing stuff in our best interest. They're doing, they're making their numbers work. But I guess that's 2 cents worth there. I think we've been willing to work with most projects or developments that come in here. I would still like to see the paper into a neighborhood of single family and have some 2 units and then
today, it's, you know,
I think one thing that we don't see a lot of, and we had that, the Metcalf property that isn't built yet, like the townhouse idea. We don't really have much of that, but I think that that is visually appealing and something desirable, I would think, for a neighborhood. So encouraging, that type of development, I think, would be good. Of course,
We'd have to be specific.
we would have to be specific
Which I'm
about.
fine with. So we're upfront with what we're looking for.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that kind of thing requires a change, if that still fits in what we're proposing, but I feel like when you hear multifamily, some people think of these mega complexes that are
Well,
100. Do we need to like call out specifically that we mean these, that type of housing?
I think we do. Because that's what we're,
Yeah,
that's what we're supposed to be targeting.
Right, right. We
Probably
do
the
have-
best way to do that is just to provide images. This is the.
We had one of the best planned neighborhoods that never got built in the village, and they actually had very specific pictures of the types of houses they actually wanted in their neighborhood. That's how specific they were. Because that was their vision, and they were very specific about it.
Sure.
So if we increase the percentage of multifamily, I think we need to look at, okay, if we're gonna start building more and more, we also have to look at, the capacity of the fire department, police department, stuff like that. So that'd be something to throw out to both of those departments, just because it's reality. It's gonna take more resources on their part to properly serve us, so. Like to hear their input.
Sure.
Any other comments regarding this? Got what you need?
I think so. Sounds like we'll
Some
be
visuals.
interested and keep talking about it. We can-
Yeah. Come up with some pictures. All right, future agenda items then.
Lots of concurring going on this evening. All on the same page.
Hear anything agenda-wise?
Don't have the list in front of me and nothing's springing to mind.
Items, yes?
Housing task force discussion.
Yep. All right. Then we'll move right to item 15.
Motion to adjourn.
Da-da-da.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
Everybody have a good rest of their week.
Great.
Good night.